Hi, everybody. Hope you are having an awesome day. I am going to be painting a dragon today, which I thought would be suitable for, the time of year that we've got Halloween coming up, but also wanted to offer something that's kind of feminine and fun to do. So I found this really pretty dragon that I wanted to share with you guys. And so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pop this up just a little bit so that if anyone's watching online, you can still see the um, subtitles, and then we'll get started. So if you're just now hopping on and you've never seen me paint live before, my name is Holly Zapata, and my art business is Art Your Way, and I teach other people how to paint animals. And so I'm really excited about this painting. Okay, so let's go over all of our supplies. So I've got my canvas. This is an 11 by 14 inch canvas. And then I've also got some water here. I've got my paint colors here. I've got a really pretty, this is a Liquitex Basics alizarin crimson, which I really love that color. And I love the fluidity of it. And then this is a prism violet. I've also got my Artist Loft brand that I typically use, just a touch of blue. And I've also grabbed a metallic purple color. This is going to be really pretty. And then I've got just some basic craft paint that's black and white. And I also grabbed a thicker white Artist Loft brand level 1 just to amp things up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our background here. I've got a few different paint brushes. I've got a large flat brush, and that's probably what I'm going to use for my background. I've got a large round brush. I've also got a medium-sized flat brush just in case to get into some of those angles a little bit. Then I've got a small liner brush for some little details. So now I'm going to go ahead and start with that larger brush, and I'm just going to dip a touch into my blue paint. So I'm going to, maybe if I have this here, that'll help you guys to see, and I can have that up a little bit more. So I got a touch into, let me make sure that stops shaking. A touch into my blue paint here, and I'm going to make a light blue with it. And so I'm just going to dip into some of this thicker white. And on my palette, this is a piece of palette paper I'm using, and I've got a baby wipe and a paper towel over here too, just in case. On my palette, I'm going to make this really pretty light blue. I want it even lighter than that. Okay, and then I want to kind of double load and do just a touch of this darker purple. And this is going to look really pretty on our background. So I'm going to start up here and see how it's making kind of a rainbowy color. Lots of fun. A little more of that purple. But it also looks like it's, in the sky. She's just so pretty. I loved this dragon because she's very feminine and not scary. I always, like, growing up, I loved like fantasy creatures, and just thought that one day it would be a lot of fun to learn how to paint them. So I'm kind of getting in on these smaller areas just closer to where her face is at. And I've already drawn out her face a little bit. If I wanted to be a little more careful, I could switch to that smaller flat brush if I wanted to. And I'm just kind of doing fun, not really calculated strokes, just kind of getting in there to get that background filled. And even if I go over my pencil lines a little bit, it's okay. I'm gonna just paint over them anyways. I kind of want to add more contrast here. I think I'll go even lighter right up here under her neck. And this, when we go to do her coloring, is gonna make her really stand out and pop a little bit. And then I'm gonna come on over here. Oh, there goes my ring light again. Need to order a new one. I say that every time. Okay, and then I'm just coming right over here and getting in around this really pretty, she's holding a lotus flower. So kind of going a bit lighter here. I'm going to scooch my paint water over. Hope you all are having a fabulous day. Had appointments and stuff for my older daughter this morning and got everyone off to school, and so it is quiet around here. So I'm happy to hop on and get to paint with you guys. And also, if you'd like a tracer for this, you want to give it a try later, just comment tracer. Or even if you're just popping on to see what's going on, please say hi. I'd love to see how you're doing today, and if you have any questions about how I'm painting this. I've always loved animals since I was a kid. Always had all sorts of animals. We didn't have a farm necessarily, but we always had cats and dogs. My grandma had a farm. And so it was a lot of fun growing up with different animals around the house. I'm adding a little more blue in there. Love that. Blue with the purple, so fun. Then maybe this side is just a little bit darker blue than the rest. It's going to add a little bit of interest to the background. If you've never painted before, this would be really fun. A fun starter piece, especially if you like fantastic creatures. Okay, I'm gonna kind of add I want a bit more purple up there and maybe a bit more blue down here. Let's dab into that blue. And lighten up as we go down. This is just gonna kind of create like a, maybe it's sunrise, kind of a lighter sky feeling. Now I'm just kind of blending them so that I don't see so many bold, harsh colors there with the strokes, or not colors, but I should say the square shaped strokes. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. And so now I'm going to go ahead and start working on her body here. And so this particular dragon, I wanted to find something that had scales, but this actually had like feathers, and I changed it a little bit because I have taught a lot with feathers. So I thought, well, let's try this dragon. Almost looks like she has fur on her body and then feathers on her head, which if you're like fantastical beast professional and you know exactly what kind of dragon she is, please let me know, because I don't know. I'm like, she had feathers and she had all these other things going on. Okay, so I'm gonna start with this large round brush, and for all of my animals I like to look at them and decide what the base color is and then work on my shadow tones and then my highlight tones. So for her, she is pink, and she's not this really dark pink that I've got. She's that's probably going to be more of a shadow tone. She's kind of a middle tone pink. So I'm just mixing some white in. I'm going to kind of show you guys here, some white in with that tone, and it's kind of like a sweet tart kind of pink. So she's kind of in a mid-tone range there, and I'm just going to start painting in the direction that things would be growing on her. She's got hair, or even if she did have scales. And this area will end up having more highlights and stuff on it, but I'm just getting that general underpainting idea going, just so I know. And then I'm kind of leaving, I've got some pencil lines to give me an idea of where some of my shadow tones are going to be, and so I'm kind of leaving some of those lines just to remind me where I'm going to be going. I will be kind of layering on top of this color, so her cute little face here. She reminds me of a mom. She makes me think of a mom who's like, you know, dragons are protective. Anyone seen the new Game of Thrones that just came out? Of course, they have the dragons, and then there's also the new Lord of the Rings show that just came out. My husband and I were watching it last night. It was so good. And he had to get up to work at 3. I was like, let's wait and watch that third episode after, you know, because he was going out of town for a few days. Like, let's wait and watch that other one when you get back. And he wanted to watch it right then and there. So I was like, okay, let's just watch it. So she's initially just going to look like she's all one color and kind of uninteresting here to start. And that's kind of part of painting animals, is you just got to get that foundation set, even though it might not look very good to start. Once we start layering, it will look awesome. It's really going to help to make sure that everything's filled in and looking nice. Again, these lines are to show me, okay, where are my highlight tones going to be, where are my shadow tones going to be. And I'm kind of painting around those lines just so that I remember where they're at. If anyone watching has ever been to one of my Paint Your Pet parties, this is how I teach them as well. You kind of start with your mid-tone and work up towards your other tones. And then closer down in this area, we will end up doing some shadows where this lotus is at. It's going to seem like everything is just this color. In fact, I need to make more of it. So to make more of a color, you can add a tad bit of water, because we're working with acrylic paints today. You can add a tad bit of water to it since they're a water-based paint, to spread it a little bit, or you could just mix some more right on your palette. This is just palette paper that I'm using, but maybe if you're painting at home, you can use a paper plate if you've got one, or an extra sheet of paper. So as you can see, I'm still kind of working around those lines, so I have an idea of where these shadows are going to end up going. Coming right along with her little spine here. She's got some spikes on her back. Now, if I were not teaching and I was just doing this for fun, I probably would just be painting as I go. Maybe not working so much around these lines, but I want to show you guys that it can be easy to paint animals and that it's okay to have things drawn out so that you can work around them as you go, especially when you're just learning and just trying to figure things out. Okay, so this is, and actually I'm even going to pull some up into this spiky area. And let's see how I'm leaving just some white around it so I know. And let's even pull some into these guys here, which it looks like I've got a little bit of more background to fill in back there, so I'll have to come back to that. Ooh, grabbed a streak of blue right there. I kind of like that. Happy little accidents. They're a lot of fun when they happen. Sometimes. But, you know, if you make a mistake, it's always good to have a baby wipe handy or whatever you've got on hand, a paper towel that you can wet a little bit. Because with acrylic paint, we can easily fix our mistakes as we go along. Okay, I think this one went underneath that one. Okay, yeah, a little bit up closer to there. All right, now I'm going to fill in that little background area I missed up here. So just a little bit of that blue with some purple. And it would have been kind of hard to get up in there anyways. And she's got her little hand here. If you're comfortable using that bigger brush, you can keep using that to fill in that area. You might want to switch to a smaller brush. But I'm just filling in her little fingers here. Creepy fingers. They are a little creepy. Had to do something a little creepy on her, but not too creepy. She's pretty enough. She could be perfect for a paint party or for kids to try. Okay, so now I've got that base tone set. I am going to, let's see, I missed her little spikes back here. Let's pop those in really quick. I am going to start working on her shadow tones now. So her shadow tones are more this darker pink and also some purples. And so I'm going to shift from the mid-tone up to the darker tone. So now I'm going to just start working with this darker pink, and I'm going to go ahead and paint in around her eyes, kind of spiky area. This would be good to use a smaller brush for too if you weren't comfortable using a bigger brush. And I'm going to move the camera a little bit closer so you guys can see a little bit better with some of the smaller details. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill in her spikes here. She's got a darker tone underneath this kind of area that I'm just creating. I'll add more of a dark purple here in a bit. Then I do want to add just a touch in through here And the paint is still wet from what I had before, so it's just gonna blend in a bit. And I'm just going really lightly with my paintbrush. I do want to come up underneath this bottom side on these spikes up here. It's just like I'm just kind of like petting her in the direction that her spikes and hair and everything are flowing. This is going to be a little bit more shadowed underneath here because of this horn that she's got here. And again, if you're just popping on to watch, I have this going on a couple of different streams. We've got my membership page, my free Drawing Animals page, my regular Facebook page, and my YouTube channel. So it'll show, I'm kind of watching from my membership page on my iPad just in case anyone comments there, but here, if you pop on anywhere else, it's just hard for me to see if you're there, so feel free to say hi. Okay, I am going to add a bit of a shadow right along her nose there too, just so it shows that it's there. And I'm going to go in here a little bit later on with the smaller brush. So now I'm going to double load with this pink and some of the lighter pink, maybe even some white. And I'm going to start pulling some strokes from this area down. So it's almost like she's got hair. Just layering with short little strokes. Maybe a little more of my pink, a little more white. And actually, let's do a little darker with the pink right in here. Because this area, I want it to be highlighted a bit more, so I'm going to go darker here. And as, see where her head is at? So that means this area would be kind of shadowed. So, because her head is kind of hanging over it, so we're going to imagine our light is shining from this direction. So as I move this way, I'm even going to dip. Let's try a little bit purple with that. I think it needs a little more purple. There we go. Starting to see some shadows forming a bit. Maybe even pulling up into here a bit, right up underneath her head. And I apologize, the lighting isn't better. My ring light keeps going out. I need to just get a new one and not keep forgetting. Okay, I'm going to leave this a little bit lighter and then come in with some darker purple through here. And those lines where I was at, that's what's guiding me and helping me to recognize where I need to go. going to add a touch of a blue highlight here in just a bit. Let's get down in here and add some more of that really pretty magenta. I'm just kind of following where those white lines are that I left. Just having everything flow together. I'll go in here with my lighter tones and make it look a lot better here in a bit. Let's get back into these two here, the purple and that really pretty pink. Just kind of imagining her, everything's kind of flowing down this way, maybe even getting darker over here. And this I want to be lighter, and then maybe just a touch of dark in there. Okay, so I'm just kind of looking around, seeing where else I want to add things. I think I'm going to go ahead and, before I get more into some of our highlight tones, I'm just going to kind of pull that down a bit more to blend it. And then we are going to add in some highlights more. I'm going to get in here with some purple on these spikes on the back. Just pulling it as it's flowing down her back. And I do want to get her horns a little more purple. So while we're working with our purple, it's okay if it's still got pink. I'm going to come up here and work on these horns a bit. Really want them to be a nice some dark purples here and there. Really up underneath each one of the curves that she's got, I'm going to do a little more purple. I'm not filling the whole thing in. You could do that. That's all right if you want to. And then I'm going to switch to a smaller brush as I get up into these really little areas up here. But before I do that, I'm going to go over to this side. And let's fill in this area here. And then she does have a touch of this kind of pink and purple color around her fingers down here, and there is some shadow, so I definitely want to get in here with that. It's just shadow from the flower. And then on her hands, she'll probably have a bit of a shadow at the base of each of her fingernails, kind of around it, definitely right in here. And right in there. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that for the most part. Once I'm ready to get back up in here with some smaller details, I'll go there. Let's start working on, let's see, I do kind of want to soften where I just put those shadows on her fingers. So I'm just going to dip into that mid-tone color and soften those edges to blend the purple a bit more. And maybe even add a touch of purple. Just so it looks a little more shadowed and rounded, since the fingers are not really straight. even add a touch of black to that purple right in here. And then we're gonna kind of blend the purple out and up and around that. It's blending down a little bit. Maybe define this one a little bit more. A little bit of white and pink. Okay. Now I want to get into some of my details before I really do my highlighting. So I'm going to keep using this smaller brush, and I'm going to fill in her nostril here with some purple, dark purple. And then I kind of want to smooth it out a little bit and add a touch of that medium pink. Just to blend things a little bit. And then let's come over here and just add that little touch there. I haven't filled in the background really close to her nose right there. So I'm gonna get some of that really light blue and just get right up next to where her nose is at. Okay, and then I also want to add her mouth here. I'm going to do it with the dark purple. Just kind of coming up underneath. And I already drew it on, so it makes it super easy. I'm also going to end up blending it up along her snout a bit. Almost like she's smiling. Just a little bit of white here. And then I had a touch of purple along there, so I pulled it up that edge. And I do want to make this little area a little darker. Just in a little bit of shadow. I'm going to add a bit of water. You can see my paint is just kind of lightly coating the canvas, so I'm just adding a touch of water to make sure it fills in all of my little spaces there. And then I can go in on that other side with a bit of a highlight before we start working on, see how I just covered up that straight line that was there with my smaller brush. Okay, I'm going to start working on her eye. So to do the eye, first I'm going to do the colored portion of her eye. We're going to do that light blue. So I'm going to use a smaller brush. And that way it kind of goes with the background. And dragons kind of have little squiggles in their eyes. You can get as detailed as you'd like with this. going to fill in the pupil and start to outline the eye. So the pupil is the center of the eye, and because she's looking down, her highlight is going to be across the top. So I'm going to outline first and then add her highlight. So I'm going to go ahead and outline the shape of her eye with my smaller brush. I'm just using the thinner craft paint for this part. And then once this black spot is dry, I'll go in and add the highlight. So I'm going to wait a bit for that. So while I'm waiting, I'm going to go ahead and switch back to this large round brush and finish doing some of my highlights on the first. So to do that, I'm just taking some more of that white and I'm making an even lighter tone than that mid-tone. More of like a very light pink. And then I'm going to go in, sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice. It's so smoky here. We have had so many fires close by. So if you're watching and you're local, you'll understand. If you're not local here in Washington, live in Eastern Washington, then be thankful you're not in the middle of all the smoke. It's literally like unsafe to go outside. So that's a bummer. I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm just making a little bit more of this pink because I'm going to use quite a bit of it. I'm going to start kind of overlapping on the purple here. I'm starting to add some highlights to these spikes here. I'll add a more defined white highlight here in a moment, but just getting that basic idea in there. She's almost kind of fluffy. I kind of want to double it with a touch of pink here, touch more pink. Kind of define her nose a bit more, the shadow there. And just kind of blending and playing until I feel like it looks a little bit more like what I want it to look like. That's the fun part. You can just literally have fun with it. And now I'm almost like a dry brush stroke a bit. And get a little more of the lighter. And even up underneath her jaw here. Okay, she's looking pretty, but this is still, I feel like it needs to be blended a bit more. And so I'm still going to kind of soften a little bit, maybe add a little more of that mid-tone just to kind of get things a little bit softer in around her face. Especially before we start adding our really, really bright highlight tones. So I'm just lightly softening everywhere where I can see kind of some of the harsher lines. See how I can see some of those strokes that are a little bit harsher there. I don't want to lose that shadowing that I've made at the same time. So see how like these lines are a little bit harsher, so I need to get rid of some paint and then go in with a cleaner brush and soften them, just blending them in with the others. Okay, I think this is dry enough. We can add our highlight there. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the smaller brush and dip into my thinner craft paint that's white. Even add a touch of water to it because it is starting to dry a bit. And then I'm just going to come right along here because she's looking down and add her highlight. And then these little corner areas where Square's at, they're not naturally really white. I'm going to go in with a touch of gray. And I did end up going over this area a bit more than I like. So I'm going to get in my pink and add a touch of black to it just to define it and add some shadow underneath here. Maybe even define her eyelid a bit more. Just soft little motions. And I would kind of like her to have some sort of like an eyelash in a way. So I'm going to kind of pull this up. She's like the dragon from Shrek, but like a really pretty version. So with the eyelash, you can just pull along the eyeline and then pull your paintbrush up at the end. Makes her a little more girly. Let's add a touch of black on the bottom of her nostril. All right, I'm gonna keep working on adding some of that kind of mid-highlight tone on the rest of the body here. So I'm just gonna make a little bit more of that, and we did that with our white and pink, and a little bit more white than our mid-tone was. So here we go. Let's get a little bit up here. Whoop. See, I went a little bit thick there. So I'm gonna grab a paper towel and just wipe it a little bit. There. Emergency solved. And it's more because I'm using a brush that's got a lot of paint on it. It's a little bit big. But I'm just doing this kind of mid-highlight tone that I want to get in there where I really get the better highlights in. So going kind of soft. And then this is going to be highlighted a little bit along here. And then right in here, I really want it light and even a touch of purple with it. Like a light purple. Let's go a little bit lighter even than that. There we go. And now see where I have this line now, I'm going to overlap that line with this highlight. And kind of zigzag it in and out of this other area. Just defining things a tad bit more. And then I'm gonna get back in my pink just a little bit for right in here, just so it blends a little bit better. And these strokes with this brush are what's gonna make it look kind of soft, and like she looks soft, like you would want to pet her. Even layering on top of what I've got here, even with a little more of that reddish tone, or pink tone, I should say. Kind of pulling my brush up and down just to blend it well. Maybe even a touch of purple as it comes down in here. Ooh, I like how that's looking. Just softening everything so it's not just that one tone like we had before. And then there's going to be one more highlight in here, a little more white, that purple. A little darker through here. And just blend it a bit more. The thing with using acrylic paints too is, you know, if you're not using a really high grade of them, then you're gonna have to layer a little bit. And so that's kind of with painting animals, that's kind of our tactic. Anyways, I'm kind of going in the wrong direction here. I'm gonna pull this down more and then have it slowly go that way. See how I had my strokes kind of the wrong direction, but I was able to fix it. And see how this is really a perfect line. I'm gonna fix that too, because that we need to just pull some more random lines up so that's not such a perfect line. And same down here, but we're still blending. So let's switch over to the lighter color again, and just softening that edge and kind of just going with the flow. And you can even get in back in the pink tone and kind of zigzag along that edge since it's still wet, and it's going to blend it a little bit more. Even like pull some random spots all the way. And maybe there's just a bit of a dark edge there. And this area kind of blends a bit more down. Kind of getting back in my purples here just to add that shadow and to have the fur pulling down. I do want to blend up in here a bit more, so I'm just dipping into my purple and pulling it up along that ridge. And let's just try a touch of blue with that purple, see what happens. It's pretty dark. Now let's add some white. Let's do a lot of white. And add kind of a highlight along her neck here. Really pretty. So I made this effect here. That was an accident, but I have a double loaded where the purple and the white is there. And so it's just naturally doing that. I'm going to go ahead and do that same effect up here on the horns. So she's got this one. It's pulling down here. So I'm going to blend it in with the purple. Need a little bit more white or even this lighter purpley pink. Soften that edge. You can use your fingers sometimes to soften things. That kind of helps. And then I'm just going to come along each one of these and add that same kind of highlight tone. Not worry about getting over the lines too much because I'm going to just go in here in a bit with a smaller brush and touch things up. Then this one should be a little darker, so let's add that touch of blue to that. A little bit more of that purple underneath that blends up. Okay, I think we're about ready for some of our bigger highlights, and then we can work on our flower. So if you're just hopping on, we are painting a dragon today, a girl dragon, kind of fun. Something that's kind of feminine, but also kind of suits what's, we're kind of in that season where we paint Halloween-like stuff, and so I thought it would be great for this. Okay, so now I'm just going right into my white paint, and I'm going to add just a teeny tiny touch of that other pink, where it's like probably don't even have anything, hardly anything in it. And then I'm just going to start adding some bigger highlights here. So I'm just going to pull some up along this edge of her face, along the jawline. And see how it's so bright? It's really, really bold in here. I am going to soften that with a touch of this pink. Let's get it blended a bit first. You could also get your paintbrush wet and soften it a little bit that way. See how that helps them not to look so bold, but they are fluffy still. She's so fluffy. So I just got some water on there and just a touch, just softening that a little bit on her face. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull some of that lighter tone up along this ridge, just to help her stand out a bit with her spikes. We'll go in between these and really do a darker tone, but for now, just adding a little bit of highlight. And I could use my smaller brush for these strokes, especially towards the tips here where she's kind of spiky. So if you're painting at home, you might prefer to do that. In fact, I think I will switch over. I'm going to switch over to this smaller flat brush, getting it wet a little bit and dipping back into that that really, really light pink highlighted paint, and I'm going to hold it perpendicular to my canvas and pull it along those edges. Okay, now I'm going to really get in that and really start to add just a little bit more of a highlight in here and really make it, I'm just kind of zigzagging that brush. So I'm using that medium-sized flat brush. I'm just really adding dimension. Oh, hey, Ronnie, thanks. Yeah, I'm kind of liking how she's turning out. Ronnie just popped on and said she likes how it's looking, so just kind of defining things a little bit more here and there. Yeah, add a little more of a highlight that kind of shows that this hair is flowy a little bit more. And a touch of water. Okay. Just zigzagging right through where we put that other highlight, and I'm going to kind of randomly pull up and down so it blends better. And as I come up closer to her back, I'm going to get a little smaller and just let it go. Maybe it's a little bit bigger through here. And just a few more white lighter strokes in here. And I do want to add just a touch over here too, I think. Just a little bit lighter. Okay. Now I'm going to get in with my small brush and I'm going to, let's outline up here on her horns and underneath her spikes before we get into our lotus flower. So I'm dipping a little bit in my black craft paint and I'm thinning it out with a little bit of water. It's just been sitting for a bit. I'm going to come up on this side and just darken things with each segment of her little horns that she's got. And then also pull up underneath each one of these just so there's a little bit more of a shadow. And I can gently pull that straight line, pull my brush along that so it's not so perfectly straight. It shows that this is more of like a rounded object a bit. Maybe a little too much black in there. I'll have to kind of play with that part. These little details are what take a lot of time, and when I'm teaching a paint party, I don't really get into the details as much because a lot of people have been having some drinks, they're feeling fabulous. Getting really into these smaller details takes patience. I find it very therapeutic. It takes some time to want to get into them, and then the painting will take a little bit longer when you're doing a little more of the detailed work. And I still find it to be very fun. Okay, this segment here, a little more black, a little more water. We could even just use a dark purple instead of black for this. do feel like black kind of helps it to pop and adds contrast. And we'll add some more of a white highlight here in a little bit. So I'm kind of curling underneath each one of these segments and then pulling my brush in some smaller, very similar strokes just to get that shadow look. You could, if you want more cartoony and less realistic, you could just do the black lines without the shorter strokes. And up here, I'm not even worrying about those little shadows. I'm just pulling my brush up and around. And there's even one more I think we could do going off the page there. So now I've got to let the black dry a little bit before I can get in and do a highlight. So I'm going to kind of pull some more up underneath these pink areas. And this is just helping to define things up here a little bit more. There's a chunk in my paint right there. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but that's never fun. Hopefully I can grab it here in a bit. Okay, I'm also going to kind of just come up underneath here, outline each of these little guys. Before we add a highlight to them. And just kind of came up underneath her jawline just to accentuate a little bit. We could even go on her mouth with a little bit of black here and there. I'm not going to fill the whole part of her mouth with it, but just some little strokes here just to show some more shadow, pulling up from the bottom. I mean, this is what's fun to me. I love doing little details like this. I find it very therapeutic. Some people find it tedious. I think if I was doing it, working on a piece for years like some artists do, I would find it very tedious, but with this, it's just fun. Okay, now I'm gonna get some fresh white here. It's craft white. And I've already got my highlights going on these guys up here. I'm gonna go ahead and add some here, hoping my black is dry enough. Let's do some, just pull this a little more over here. Let's do a pure white right along there. Really nice highlight. Okay, I think I'm ready for the flower and her claws. So with the flower, I'm going to go ahead and still keep using similar tones just so we have the same kind of color palette going on throughout the painting. And I'm just going to switch back over to this large round brush. I'm going to double load. I'm going to double load with, let's do some purple and that pink. Actually, let's triple load and some white. Let's see how this turns out. So one thing I like to do when I'm like experimenting, not sure how something's going to look, I'll go on my palette and just kind of pull the colors. See that? And actually, I'm not really loving that so much. I kind of want more purples and whites. So I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get in here and just start pulling those colors down. I'm going to aim to do the darker purple on the base and then the lighter purple on the top. And then that means I kind of have to go back and forth into my paint a little bit more. Getting my white a little bit more going through this flower. More purple down towards the center. I'm kind of leaving some space where her nails are at, just so I can see. See, that's gonna be, let's do that. Just kind of blending things a bit more as I go, not being too picky about things. And pull that one out. Let's add a touch of white. Okay, kind of want to make things more interesting in here by switching to my smaller brush and getting into this darker blue. And that's going to be kind of our shadow tone that I want to add in here at the base of where these petals are at. And since my paint is still a little bit wet, it's all right. It's just kind of helping things to blend a bit better. I'm going to move the camera down a little bit closer so you guys can see the flower. Yeah. There we go. I'm going to end up bonking the thing with my paintbrush a little more. Let's come up on this one here. Make that another petal, I decided. Okay, let's add a touch of that lighter blue just along some of these. Just kind of zigzagging my brush down. Okay. Now I am, let's see, this one needs a little bit more down in there. I'm going to kind of go around these claws and kind of define them a little bit more before then we'll let this dry a bit before we move into our highlights on our petals. This is all shadow on the hand here. It kind of looks like blobs of strange things up close, but when we pull back it'll look better, I promise. Just adding a little bit of a highlight to these. Okay, so the claws are actually pretty easy. I'm just going to dip into this darker black paint and let's make them match her horns a little bit. We'll do the purple too. And then I'm going to have this side be the shadow side. Then I'm gonna outline a bit with my black right along that edge. And since black is darker than this purple, that's okay. I don't have to wait for it to dry. But if you really want it to be bold and not blending, you might want to wait for it to dry. I'm going to add the highlight side on the nails. So let's do this lighter kind of pinky purple color. It's drying out a bit, so I'm just mixing it a little bit because I only need a little bit. And then I'm just going to pull along that ridge down. A little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to get in here and really add these highlights on these fingers a little bit better. This brush before we get into our white. Oh, someone popped on. Oh, my husband said, "Oh, that's so cool." And Martha said, "It looks amazing. I like the background." Yes, I like the background too. Thank you. I'm gonna pop this up so you guys can see a little bit better the whole thing. Maybe I can get my ring light to work again. There we go. It'll work for a little bit at least. That'll be good. A little bit closer for you guys. Okay, I'm just finishing up the flower. I'm going to add some white highlights. So I'm just going to add a little bit of my white craft paint. And using my smaller brush, I'm just going to come along the edges of each of these flowers where the highlight would probably be. And it's just going to help them to pop a bit. Thanks for hopping on, you guys. I know that it's a Monday, and I don't know about you, but Mondays are always hard to get motivated for things, I guess. So let's see. Let's do one along the ridge line of her nails. And then add just a little bit. I'm going to kind of zigzag it just to add a little flare along each of her funky dragon fingers. And then let's do a touch just on the surface there, just so they pop out a little bit. Got a bit into my black, so I just wipe my brush. I'm going to keep going on the petals. I'm really wanting these that are on the edge to pop, so I'm gonna try to do a little more white in there. I'm gonna get darker in there. I've got a little spot I can see. Be a touch darker. Leave that dark. Just a little bit. Okay, I think we're ready to try some metallic, which I'm going to use this metallic purple. It's a light metallic purple. And this is kind of our last step before my signature. I'm just going to add a touch here and there. So I'm going to grab this smaller flat brush and make sure it's rinsed and dried, and then dip into my metallic paint. And metallic paint is a little bit thinner, and so I do like to kind of just brush it and brush it on wherever you'd like. I kind of like to match it with the same colors where there's like this lighter purple. Maybe on her horn it would look really nice. Just a little bit. The nice thing is it's so thin you can just paint over the black with it. Maybe even a little bit on the flower. Kind of holding it a little bit more at an angle now so it's not like square strokes. Okay, and then I do want to add one last highlight right up here. And right along these edges. I don't think I got a chance to do that because we were waiting for it to dry. So let's really make them pop. I'm going to get in a little bit of the white and the pink just along her eyebrow here, just to add some teeny tiny little details along this pink area. And then just softening a bit with a little more of the pink. Just having fun and layering them a little bit. Okay, I think she's pretty much done. I'm going to go ahead and add my monogram here. I really enjoyed painting this. You can tell I really got into the details. So I'm going to go ahead, let's do the dark purple. I'm going to take some of that purple, and I like to add quite a bit of water before I do my signature, and with the smaller brush, that way I can really like have more control. And then I'm just going to add my signature right in here. And that's it. So I'm going to let's turn the camera around. You guys can see me. Hello. So thank you so much for stopping by and watching as I painted this. I want to let you guys know that I do have a membership. I've had some people that weren't sure, like, does she have a membership? Does she not? So I do have a membership where I teach other artists how to paint animals, and I also teach them how to teach them to other people. And sometimes if you're a paint party artist, we have seasons where it's kind of slow, so I teach how to do commissions as well. This particular painting, since it took quite a bit on the details, would probably be more of a commission piece because it took a little more time. But it is a lot of fun to learn how to paint fur and skills and that sort of thing. So if you're interested in learning more, just check out my website. It's artyourway.org. And then there's a link at the top that says Paint Party Animal. That's the name of my membership. And it is open. So we've got the doors open. If you'd like to join, you're welcome to join now. And I will go ahead and throw this design in there for members to paint if they'd like to. So again, thanks for watching. I'm going to go ahead and go. I hope you guys have a fabulous day. Bye.